everyone. I welcome all of you to my lecture sessions on biochemistry for pharmacy students. We have been discussing regarding the topic enzymes for the past 4 or 5 classes. So in this session, let's discuss in detail regarding coenzymes and cofactors, a very important topic. Let's understand the basic concepts of coenzymes and cofactors. In enzyme catalyzed reaction, an enzyme and substrate will be there. Enzyme and substrate come together, form enzyme substrate complex, then that will be transformed into a product. Okay, then the product is released into the solution. So here, for this reaction to happen, the first and foremost thing that is needed is an enzyme need to be in active conformation. So as you can see over here, that an enzyme is a globular protein, and because globular proteins are highly flexible, so to maintain the three-dimensional shape, that is what we can see over here, you can see inside a network of hydrogen bond interactions will be there. So these hydrogen bond interactions are actually responsible for maintaining three-dimensional geometry of the enzyme as well as the active site. Sometimes these enzymes take the help of certain chemicals, or usually metals, so that these metals will form coordinate covalent bonds. That means via chelation they will stabilize the ternary structure of the protein, so thereby it gives a lot of stability to the three-dimensional shape and size of the active pocket. So this is one type of help that is needed by the enzyme from non-proteinous chemicals. The second way, for certain chemical reactions to happen, it needs helper chemicals. Okay, so what do these do? What do these helper chemicals do? These helper chemicals, sometimes they provide energy. Means for a particular reaction to happen, we need sometimes energy. So that energy has to be supplied by the outside chemicals only, either environment or through high energy compounds. The second one is reactive substances. Okay, for a chemical reaction to happen, let's say if it has to undergo oxidation or reduction, etc., an enzyme is only a facilitator. It facilitates a substrate to get oxidized or reduced or chemically transformed. But actually the oxidation or reduction is actually done by another chemical other than a substrate. So that is what we call it as reactive substance. So in these two ways a helper chemical is needed. So this type of chemicals, whatever are needed, which are obtained from the non-proteinous chemical, that helps the enzyme to do its job, is what we call it as coenzyme. Okay, and here in this case, because metal is a part of the three-dimensional structure of the enzyme, so that's why the metal ion will stay with the enzyme forever. So this type of non-dialyzable, non-separable, non-proteinous chemicals that are associated with enzymes, this type of chemicals are what we call them as cofactors. Okay, so this is the way how we can see a clear distinction between cofactor and coenzyme. Cofactors always associate with enzyme, they cannot be dialyzed, whereas coenzyme will associate with enzyme as and when it is needed, and they are dialyzable. So that is the basic difference between coenzyme and cofactor. Okay, so friends, I hope you got the point. Here in the picture you can see I gave you one example. This is a very big protein. This is actually glucokinase. Okay, glucokinase enzyme. What is the job of glucokinase enzyme? It converts glucose to glucose 6 phosphate. Okay, so it takes the help of ATP, and as we have seen in the last classes, glucokinase, hexokinase, so all these enzymes, they need a metal ion, that is magnesium, okay, for its optimal function. Here magnesium is what we call it as the cofactor, and ATP is called as coenzyme. Okay, so if you zoom into the receptor pocket, here in the background you can see This is the molecule glucose. So here in the background you can see glucose molecule. This is magnesium ion, and this is the red colored molecule is ATP. The role of magnesium is to see that the active pocket's three-dimensional structure is maintained, and also this magnesium helps align glucose appropriately so that the phosphorylation happens only at the 6th hydroxy group. Okay, so this is the way how an enzyme gets help from non-proteinous chemicals, coenzymes and cofactors. Okay, so let's move ahead. So here in biochemistry, so many coenzymes and cofactors are there. So a few of them I am mentioning over here. So these are what we call them as coenzymes: thiamine pyrophosphate, flavin adenine nucleotide, nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide like NAD+, and this is coenzyme A, biotin, tetrahydrofolate. So all these chemicals are very important coenzymes for these enzymes. Okay, so in case of cofactors, we have all these metal ions like zinc, magnesium, nickel, molybdenum, selenium and potassium. So all these ions are essential for functioning of these enzymes. We will see in detail regarding all these coenzymes. Okay, and there is one more important point is there that vitamins are actually responsible for biosynthesis of many of the coenzymes that we have in our body. Some examples I am mentioning over here, like very important, this is a very important point. Thiamine or vitamin B1 is responsible for biosynthesis of thiamine pyrophosphate, which play a major role in the biochemical reaction, that is aldehyde transfer reactions. Riboflavin, you know this one, okay, FAD. FAD is a very important coenzyme for which enzyme? Succinate dehydrogenase enzyme. Okay, so that what does it do? It does oxidation reduction type of reactions, FAD. And pyridoxine, pyridoxal phosphate group transfer, transaminase enzyme actually takes the help of pyridoxal phosphate. Nicotinamide or niacin, niacin is part of nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide, NAD+. This is also a redox enzyme coenzyme. Pantothenic acid is a very important ingredient in the biosynthesis of coenzyme A. Biotin and folic acid forms tetrahydrofolate. Single carbon metabolism, there you will find major application of tetrahydrofolate. Vitamin B12 also is involved in transfer of methyl groups and also intramolecular rearrangements. Okay, so in this way, nutrition and enzyme activity, because sometimes people may ask you how nutrition helps our system to maintain its healthy environment, because when every enzyme works appropriately at an appropriate speed and in harmony, then you will not get any kind of a disease. Okay, so when you don't eat properly and if the vitamins are lacking in your food, then they will reflect in reduced coenzyme concentration, so thereby they will affect the biochemical reactions, all these biochemical reactions. So cumulatively all of them are going to affect functioning of one or more tissues, leading to a disease. Okay, so this is the way. So friends, now let's see individual coenzymes. I segregated coenzymes in two sections. One is a major one group, that is so in case of enzymes, how many types of enzymes are there? Oxidoreductases, then transferases, hydrolases, liases, isomerases, ligases. Okay, so these are the enzymes that we have in our system. So the coenzymes that are involved in oxidation reduction type of reactions, these are what we call them as major one class of coenzymes. All the remaining we kept it in the major two class. Okay, so that's in this way we will discuss about the coenzymes in this class. This distinction is only for making a clear understanding. Cofactors of oxidoreductases. So here how many coenzymes you can see? how many types of oxidation reduction reactions can be there. Okay, so one is dehydrogenation, second one is electron transfer, third one is incorporation of oxygen. Okay, so here for dehydrogenation we have FAD, NAD, FMN, all these are coenzymes. For electron transfer we have coenzyme Q. For incorporating oxygen we have one cofactor, that is NADPH. Many others are there, we will see them one by one. Okay, so this is the way how we can see various cofactors that are involved in oxidation reduction type of reactions. So let's see one by one. The first one is NAD plus, nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide. So this is actually exists in oxidized as well as reduced forms, means NAD plus, NADH both are existing, but between NAD plus and NADH, NAD plus is a stable molecule whereas NADH is a high energy molecule. Here if you look at the structures, this is nicotinamide, this is nicotinic acid, and when you keep here NH2 you will get nicotinamide, and this is NAD. So what is this one? Is it NAD or NADH? This is NAD only, nicotinamide. Okay, so up to this one, this is nicotinamide and this is ribose, and from here we have the phosphorylation, and now this is one nucleotide and this is the second nucleotide. So this is adenine and we have ribose here and then phosphate. So this is ribosyl adenosine unit. That's why this is nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide, and this is a very important coenzyme for oxidation reduction reactions. So how it happens, let's see. NAD plus acts as an oxidizing agent. It can remove 2 atoms of hydrogen from the substrate. How it is able to achieve that one? So here one of the hydrogen is taken in as a hydride ion. See here you can observe H minus ion, hydride ion. So thereby the molecule NAD nicotinamide unit is going to be converted to a quinonoid ring without any charge. So one hydrogen is entering over here, the second hydrogen will be associated with the enzyme. Okay, so this is the way. Now as I told you, NADH is a high energy compound and NAD plus is a low energy compound. Why? Because in NAD plus you can see the ring is still aromatic. Now you can argue with the charge, though the charge is there because nitrogen is strongly nucleophilic, so it can bear positive charge because of but the aromatic nature, the ring is going to get a lot of stability, internal energy. So that is what is lacking over here. So that's the reason why NADH is considered as a high energy compound, and through electron transport chain it will be converted to NAD, and in that process if you complete the ETC it will give approximately 2.5 ATPs per mole of NADH. Okay, 1 mole of NADH is going to give you 2.5 moles of ATP. Now to give you one example, dehydrogenation of ethanol is achieved by alcohol dehydrogenase enzyme. So this alcohol dehydrogenase enzyme converts this alcohol to aldehyde. Okay, so here hydrogen from oxygen OH group as well as the hydrogen present on the alpha carbon, so both are eliminated, both are removed, so thereby aldehyde group is generated. So this is one of the example of where NAD plus is the coenzyme. Okay friends, I hope you understood the role of NAD plus as a coenzyme. The next one is NADPH. NADPH and NADH are not the same, they are not synonymous, because NADH is largely involved in oxidation reduction type of reactions as well as in ATP production, Whereas in case of NADPH, NADPH is largely utilized for biosynthesis of lipids and cholesterol, okay, fatty acids, etc. And it is also involved in hydroxylating enzymatic systems. So synthesis of bile acids, etc., where cholesterol is converted to hydroxylated cholesterol. Okay, that is what is going to happen in the beginning in the bile acid biosynthesis. So whenever and wherever hydroxy group is to be introduced, NADPH and oxygen, okay, as I have shown you over here, RH group is converted to ROH with the help of oxygen as well as NADPH. Okay, so in this way, NADPH is a functional molecule. It is involved in chemical conversions only. It will not participate in energy production. The next one is FAD and FMN, and because here the common thing is the flavin unit will be there. Flavin adenine dinucleotide or flavin mononucleotide, both of them, they can participate in oxidation reduction type of reactions. These two are, again, they are oxidizing agents in certain type of reactions catalyzed by dehydrogenase enzymes. FAD is a very important, because succinate dehydrogenase enzyme always is associated with FAD plus. Okay, now here you can see this is riboflavin or vitamin B2. This is riboflavin, and this is coenzyme FAD, flavin adenosine dinucleotide. Okay, flavin adenosine dinucleotide. So this is the ring that is involved in oxidation reduction type of reactions. Okay, so this is the ring which is very important for us. Now how it will participate in the reaction, here you just see. In case of FMN or FAD, in both the cases, so in the flavin ring, the first two rings containing heteroatoms, so they will contain double bonds. Both the nitrogens, they are they'll have conjugated double bonds. Whereas they pick up hydrogens, two hydrogens are taken up, and then the two nitrogens are going to be hydrogenated. Okay, like this, and it means dihydro or reduced form of this flavin unit is this one. FMNH2 here also, because here you can see extended conjugation from this carbonyl group through nitrogen to nitrogen. Because of this extended conjugation which is running even into the benzene ring, because of that it will have more stability rather than the reduced form. In case of reduced form, this is the extended conjugation is broken over here, so thereby the system is a high energy system over here. So this is one reason why FMNH2 or FADH2, so it will be reoxidized to give FAD plus, sorry, FAD. So in that process, in electron transport chain, this will give 1.5 moles of ATP. So 1 mole of FADH2, when it participates in oxidative phosphorylation through electron transport chain, it will give ultimately 1.5 moles of ATP per mole of FADH2. Okay, so this is the way. Oxidized forms of coenzymes FAD and FMN take off two atoms of hydrogen from groups like CH2CH2. One example I am giving over here, that is dehydrogenation of succinate to fumarate. That is what happens in citric acid cycle by succinate dehydrogenase enzyme. So here we have FAD and we are removing hydrogens from the methylene chain over here. So thereby we are going to produce a double bond. Usually it gives you a trans double bond. Okay, here we are getting a trans double bond, succinate to fumarate. Okay friends, I hope you understood the role of flavin coenzymes in enzyme activity. So the next important coenzyme we have over here is tetrahydrobutadiene. Tetrahydrobutadiene is a reducing agent. It assists in certain hydroxylation reactions. It can supply two hydrogen atoms and oxidize it to a quinonoid or dihydrobutadiene. So here you can see that this is the tetrahydrobutadiene, where we have on this nitrogen as well as on this nitrogen, hydrogen units are there. So where it will supply these two hydrogens. We have one hydrogen over here and one hydrogen over here. They will be supplied to the system. So thereby it will become dihydrobioteren. So if you closely observe the structure, so there is extended conjugation which is going to help achieve stability for the bioteren, dihydrobioteren over here. And we also have molybdenum associated bioteren, or we call it as molybdobioteren. This bioteren is attached to a heterocycle that comprises of a heteroatom, that is molybdenum. It is an important coenzyme for few oxygenases like xanthine oxidases and sulfite oxidase. So the next coenzyme that we have over here is lipoic acid. Lipoic acid can also be called as 1,2-thiolane 3-pentanoic acid, or this 1,2-thiolane dithiolane means it's a sulfur containing heterocyclic unit, or this also is called as thioctic acid. Okay, let's see the structure first. So this is this part. Okay, so here we have yes, this part is what we call it as lipoic acid. Here COOH will be there. So this is what we call it as lipoic acid. The lipoic acid, acidic part, is combined, reacts with NH group of lysine of the enzyme. So thereby it forms a lipoamide linkage permanently. So this part participates in the oxidation reduction type of reaction, because the disulfide linkage, whatever is there, it can accept two hydrogens, so that it is acting as an oxidizing agent. So it accepts two hydrogen atoms from the activated form of an aldehyde and binds the resulting acyl unit as a thioester and transfers the acyl onto coenzyme A. So that is what is actually happening over here. Okay, so lipoic acid is a very important ingredient in the functioning of coenzyme A. So let's move ahead. The next one is ubiquinone. Ubiquinone you can see in especially electron transfer type of reactions. So here this is ubiquinone. This is a benzoquinone unit, is this one. This is the benzoquinone unit. So it can accept electrons and hydrogen ions. So thereby it gets reduced to semi-ubiquinone first, and it picks up one more hydrogen and one more electron, so that ubiquinol is going to be generated. So what is the net reaction? Ubiquinone takes up how many? 2 electrons and 2 hydrogens to obtain ubiquinol. Okay, so what is it? Is it an oxidizing agent or reducing agent? It is actually, because it is getting reduced, it means it is an oxidizing agent. So benzoquinone acts as an electron acceptor for flavoprotein dehydrogenase enzymes in the respiratory chain. Okay, so in the beginning you will find that NAD plus and NADH dehydrogenase enzyme will be there, and FAD dehydrogenase enzyme, FADH2 dehydrogenase enzyme will be there. So in both the cases ubiquinone acts as an electron acceptor. Ubiquinone, if you look at the structure, this is highly hydrophobic. The R group over here contains a very long chain unit like this. Okay, so because of its lipophilicity, it stays with it is entirely dissolved in the internal mitochondrial membrane, and it maintains a network because it is fluidic. So it picks up electrons and then it can move from place to place because it gets itself solubilized in the mitochondrial membrane. So thereby it can transfer electrons from complex 1 to complex 3 of electron transport chain. Okay, so for a detailed discussion regarding this coenzyme Q and its role, you please see electron transport chain. So ubiquinone accepts in stepwise 2 electrons from the flavoprotein and 2 protons from the mitochondrial matrix, and is so fully reduced to ubiquinol. Okay, so this is it. The next coenzymes that we have are cytochromes. Cytochromes are integral part of some oxidoreductase enzymes, like let's say if you have this as the enzyme, then this cytochrome will be a part of the active pocket where iron will be there in the middle. So this is held very tightly by the protein around it. So that's the reason why it can be considered not just as a coenzyme, but it can also be considered as a cofactor, because it is non-dialyzable unit. Usually cytochromes are integrated into the protein structure of the enzyme. So here what exactly is happening in heme containing proteins, this heme ring whatever we have over here is holding on to iron. So iron oxidation number can flip from +2 to +3. So that's the reason why we can call these compounds as 1 electron carriers. Okay, 1 electron carriers. So mammalian cytochromes are of 3 classes, A, B and C, depending upon the kind of reactions they are involved in. So all these types of cytochromes occur in the mitochondrial respiratory chain or electron transport chain. So there you will find all these. And cytochrome type B, especially type B, or we can call this as class P450, also occur in the membranes of endoplasmic reticulum and elsewhere. Okay, so that's the reason why this is class P450, or we can call them as cytochrome P450, is one of the major classes of enzymes that are involved in oxidative metabolism of drugs. Okay, oxidative metabolism of drugs in hepatocytes. So friends, so that is the role of cytochrome. So let's move ahead. The next part is the coenzymes that are involved in electron transport chain. So they are iron sulfur proteins. So in case of electron transport chain, at one part electrons from one place are moving on to another place to another place. So the electrons will keep on moving from complex 1 to complex 3 to complex 4, and then ultimately the electrons are transferred to oxygen, so that oxygen will become water. Okay, so for this movement we have specific unique chemicals, we call them as iron sulfur proteins, which are involved in the electron transfer in the mitochondrial terminal respiratory chain. Okay, so you will get a very clear idea on regarding this in electron transport chain. I suggest you to please see that video so that you get a very clear idea on their role. So in case of mitochondrial this electron transport chain, so that despite the different number of iron atoms present, each cluster can accept or donate only 1 electron. Okay, because here what is it that we have is iron on either sides. Okay, so what is it that we have is iron. Whenever you have iron, iron can hold on to 1 electron only. So it is almost like these cluster stays like they are coupled with each other, so thereby they work like copper wire. Okay, so when you pass electrons through it, electrons will pass to the end. It is like that. So the electrons from one of the atom will move on to another atom. It depends upon the potential difference that we have from point to point. So in this way, iron sulfur proteins assist in the electron transport chain. Okay, so here we have 2 types of arrangements were found. So one of them contains iron and sulfur in 1:1 ratio. So the second arrangement that scientists found is this one. Okay, so like in a cuboid structure where every corner, alternate corner, is occupied by sulfur and iron. Okay, these are the 2 arrangements that scientists found. The next one is cofactors of other enzymes. So far whatever we have seen, FAD, NAD, FMN, this one lipoic acid, and then cytochrome, and then we have this iron sulfur complexes. All of them, they assist in the oxidation reduction type of reactions, which is one of the major set of reactions that happen in our body. So in the cofactors or coenzymes that are involved in other enzymes, you will be surprised if I say that interchanges of activated groups in metabolism are accomplished by a rather small set of carriers. Okay, means same cofactor or a coenzyme helps in achieving several types of biochemical reactions. They assist like this. So carrier molecule in the activated form is this one, and then where what actually it achieves is mentioned over here. So in case of coenzyme A, as you all knew, acyl group transfer happens. For any type of acyl group transfer, be it acetyl or otherwise fatty acyl or fatty acids of different chain lengths, it doesn't matter. For all of them, coenzyme A is the only coenzyme A assists in acyl transfer reaction all the cases. Lipoamide, as I told you, both help each other for acyl group transfer reactions, and thiamine pyrophosphate for aldehyde group transfer, and biotin, carbon dioxide, tetrahydrofolate in one carbon units like methyl, methylene, and aldehyde. All these functional groups can be transferred with the help of tetrahydrofolate. So ATP is the universal supplier of phosphoryl group, phosphorylation, and also it also supplies obviously energy. S-adenosyl methionine, SAM, helps us in the transfer of methyl group. Okay, so like that. Okay, so we have all these different types of coenzymes that we have, and then the type of groups that they are going to help in transfer. Now let's see one by one. This is the coenzyme A. This is a carrier of acyl groups. What is coenzyme A? Okay, this is coenzyme A. Sorry. What is coenzyme A? This is coenzyme A. So in case of coenzyme A, we have adenosyl unit is there, pantothenic acid unit is there, and cysteamine unit is also there. It is not cysteine. If you have a COOH group over here, then it is cysteine. That COOH group, if you remove, it will become cysteamine. Okay. So this SH group is where the acyl group will be attached. So that's the reason why normally we represent coenzyme A as coenzyme A SH. Okay, this is the normal representation of coenzyme A. At this SH group, the acyl group will be attached, so that it is a thioester linkase. This thioester linkase is a high energy bond. Thioester linkage is a high energy bond, so upon breakage of this bond, you are going to gain approximately 30 kilojoules of energy. Okay, so the next one is lipoic acid. We can achieve 30 kilojoules of energy. Okay, so coenzyme A is a very important molecule, because you will see this in various biochemical pathways. So the next and important coenzyme that we have here is lipoic acid, or we can also call it as 1,2-thiolane 3-pentanoic acid, because this is a heterocyclic ring is there, sulfur containing heterocyclic ring, or thioctic acid. So in all these three names we can call it. Lipoic acid is actually a prosthetic group for oxidoreductase enzyme, as a cyclic disulfide ring attached to the trans-acylase subunit of the 2-oxo acid dehydrogenase complex as lipoamide. So here what actually it is happening, it is acting as an oxidizing agent. So this is the lipoamide part. Okay, so actually lipoamide is this one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 COOH. So this is lipoic acid. Okay, so this lipoic acid reacts with the enzyme amino group of the lysine of enzyme, so thereby lipoamide is formed. So in the oxidized form we will find a disulfide linkase. So when it reacts with in the presence of an enzyme, okay, because this is a part of the enzyme, so upon taking up one substrate, usually an alcohol, this disulfide linkase picks up, facilitates in removing hydrogens from over here. So thereby what you are going to get, the substrate is oxidized, because when you have a CH2OH, if it is there, or CH2OH, So upon elimination of hydrogens, what will happen? C double bond OH. So this is almost like an activated form of a OH group, so that is aldehyde group, and this acyl unit is transferred onto one of the sulfur. Okay, and then this acyl group will then be transferred onto coenzyme A, so that acyl coenzyme A is synthesized, and thereby you will get the reduced form of the lipoamide. So SH group and SH group. This can reverse back to lipoamide. We have mechanisms to oxidize it by spending one NADH. We can reoxidize dihydrolipoamide to lipoamide. Okay, so this type of arrangements you can see in pyruvate dehydrogenase enzyme or PDH, pyruvate dehydrogenase enzyme. You will see this type of arrangement. Okay, so friends, I hope you understood the role of lipoic acid in oxidation reduction reactions as well as to assist the transfer reactions. Okay, so it has dual role to play. The next coenzyme that we have is thiamine diphosphate. So what is thiamine diphosphate? This is the structure of thiamine diphosphate. So we have pyrimidine ring over here that is connected to the heterocycle we have here. Okay, what is this one? Thiazole ring is there, and thiazolium ion is formed, because from here thiazolium ion is formed. To this we have the diphosphate linkage is connected over here. So in this we have nitrogen and sulfur are there, and the carbon over here contains a lot of positive charge. So that's the reason why we have here a hydrogen. The hydrogen can be eliminated, so thereby we will get a negative charge. Okay, so this is a sequence of events that are going to happen, so that the nucleophilic center that we have over here attacks the alpha keto carboxylic acids like pyruvic acid, and it facilitates in the removal of carboxylic acid unit as carbon dioxide. Okay, so in this way thiamine diphosphate helps in preparation of acetyl coenzyme A, or in the decarboxylation type of reactions. Thiamine diphosphate also serves similarly as a prosthetic group for transketolase, means transfer of activated glycoaldehydes in the pentose phosphate pathway. TPP is a very important coenzyme, friends, so please remember that. The next one is pyridoxal phosphate, or we can also call it as PLP. So this is what we call it as pyridoxine, and so in case of pyridoxine or vitamin B6 we have here CH2OH. Okay, so in case of pyridoxal, the only difference that we have is the alcohol group got oxidized to aldehyde group. So this is the group which is actually involved in the biochemical reaction. Let's see one of the example, because pyridoxal phosphate is a very important reaction, very important coenzyme involved in transamination type of reactions as well as decarboxylation type of reactions, especially for the amino acid metabolism. So here you can see the cleavage of bond between alpha and beta carbons of serine and threonine, or their direct deamination, are actually catalyzed in the presence of pyridoxal phosphate. So we'll go to the reaction. Okay, so in case of transamination type of reaction, how actually pyridoxal phosphate facilitates the reaction? In case of pyridoxal phosphate, we have the aldehyde group. Okay, so that aldehyde group reacts with amine, so that an aldimine is generated. So the aldimine gets rearranged to a ketimine. The ketimine gets dissociated, so that the nitrogen that we have on the amino acid is now transferred onto pyridoxal phosphate, so that pyridoxamine phosphate is generated. Now this pyridoxamine phosphate reacts with another alpha keto carboxylic acid. So here it is alpha keto glutarate, and the reversal of the same kind of reaction happens. So ultimately upon dissociation means now we have here the reaction happens, First ketimine is going to be generated, then aldimine is generated, then dissociation happens. Because here the alpha ketocarboxylic acid is alpha ketoglutarate, ultimately nitrogen will be shifted from pyridoxamine phosphate to alpha ketoglutarate, so that glutamine is generated. This is one of the very important deamination reaction that happens in liver, especially in amino acid metabolism. Okay, so the sum of the two partial reactions is amino acid is becoming 2-ketocarboxylic acid, whereas 2-ketoglutarate is becoming glutamate. So what is the job of pyridoxal phosphate? It is actually facilitating. Means it is with one hand it is collecting amino group from the amino acid and it is transferring it to the second receptor, that is alpha ketoglutarate, to obtain glutamic acid. The next one is biotin. Biotin plays a major role as a single carbon transfer reagent, especially carboxylic acid integrating agent. Okay, so in biotin is the prosthetic group of many carboxylases. What is the job of carboxylase? A carboxylase tries to integrate carbon dioxide in the form of carbonic acid into the structure of a molecule. Okay, so in this way it is attached to the apoenzymes by an amide link usually, because here you can see just like in case of lipoamide, biotin also attaches itself onto lysine NH group of enzymes so that it is integrated directly into the structure of enzyme. So is it a coenzyme or a cofactor? This is a cofactor, it's not a coenzyme. Okay, so it is integrated into the structure of the enzyme. So after carboxylation, because once the carboxylic acid in the form of carbonic acid gets activated, this is a normal reaction, okay, gets activated by taking up phosphate group from one ATP, so that this is a carbonic acid. Okay, carbonic acid gets esterified onto phosphoric acid and then this will be integrated. Now the carboxylic acid unit will be transferred onto the nitrogen of biotin with the help of carboxyphosphate, so that this acts as a carrier of activated carboxylic acid group. Okay, so because this nitrogen is flanked by two carbonyl carbons, so this nitrogen will remain positively charged. So that's the reason why it facilitates in elimination of the carboxyl group from over here onto other substrates. So carboxylation is able to transfer carbon dioxide to acceptors without an input of additional free energy, because this itself is a high energy compound. So one example is pyruvate carboxylase. So what it does, the carboxylic acid loaded biotin containing enzyme plus pyruvate gives you biotin containing enzyme, means decarboxylation happened, that carboxylic acid has been transferred onto pyruvic acid, so that oxaloacetate is obtained. So this kind of a mechanism plays crucial role especially in gluconeogenesis reaction. Decarboxylation of acids may be spontaneous, means it does not need any catalysis of enzymes, or catalyzed by decarboxylases. Okay, both are possible. In case of decarboxylation of amino acids, coenzyme pyridoxal phosphate plays a major role. In case of oxidative decarboxylation of pyruvate and other alpha keto this is not alpha keto carboxylic acids, oxidative decarboxylation of pyruvate and other alpha keto acids, we take the help of thiamine diphosphate. So sometimes carboxylations require presence of carboxybiotin as the donor of carbon dioxide. Okay, so because in case of decarboxylation we are taking the help of pyridoxal phosphate and thiamine diphosphate, whereas for carboxylations we are taking the help of biotin as a donor of carbon dioxide. Okay, so carboxylation of pyruvate to oxaloacetate in gluconeogenesis, carboxylation of acetyl CoA to malonyl CoA, which is the initiation point for synthesis of fatty acids, carboxylation of propionyl coenzyme into methyl malonyl coenzyme A, which facilitates in the metabolism of the odd chain fatty acids like this, and then carboxylations in the branched chain amino acid breakdown. So all these takes the help of carboxybiotin. Okay, so friends, I hope you understood the role of biotin as a cofactor. The next one is a very important coenzyme. Tetrahydrofolate it carries 1 carbon units, and mammalians can synthesize pteridine unit, but they are unable to conjugate it onto other 2 units. That is, if you see the structure of tetrahydrofolate, so this is the pteridyl unit, and this is what we have here. The para-aminobenzoic acid unit is there, and then here glutamic acid chain will be there, means a polymer of glutamic acids will be there. The number of glutamic acids can be from 1 to 5, means it can go up to 5 glutamic acids. The nitrogens at 5th position as well as in the 10th position of the tetrahydrofolate are sites for bonding of 1 carbon units. Okay, so the transfer of 1 carbon unit can exist in 3 oxidation state. The fully oxidized unit is carbon dioxide, but it is carried by biotin rather than by FH4. Now I made a table here. The types of functional groups that can be transferred by tetrahydrofolate, means for starting from most reduced carbon, that is methyl to methylene to aldehyde and formamino and methinyl. So all these groups can be transferred with the help of tetrahydrofolate, a very important coenzyme. So the last one is coenzyme B12. It is also called as cobamide cofactors or 5-deoxyadenosylcobalamin cobalamin or methyl cobalamin. So all these can be are derived from vitamin B12. In mammals, vitamin B12 is known to play major role in only 2 types of reactions. One is rearrangement of methylmalonyl coenzyme A into succinyl coenzyme A. So this reaction you can see in the metabolism of odd chain fatty acid metabolism and also in the branched chain amino acid metabolism. In both the cases you will see this. The next one is formation of methionine by remethylation of homocysteine. Okay, methionine is transferred into S-adenosylmethionine. S-adenosylmethionine participates in methylation type of reaction, and it produces homocysteine. Okay, so homocysteine will be remethylated to methionine with the help of coenzyme B12. So in this way, so this is the structure of 5-deoxyadenosylcobalamin, and here this is methyl cobalamin, because here we have the cobalt unit that we have helps in holding on to methyl unit over here. A methyl group can be transferred onto substrates like homocysteine. Okay, so to summarize, so coenzyme and cofactor are 2 important chemicals needed for optimal functioning of any enzyme. But what is the difference between coenzyme and a cofactor? Coenzymes are dialysable, means they can be separated from the enzyme. These are non-dialysable, means they are integrated parts of enzyme structure, means these chemicals are integrated into structure of the enzyme. In case of coenzymes, they are freely available in the solution, so as and when it is needed, the enzyme will take this coenzyme's help, so that coenzyme facilitates in the reaction to happen. In case of a cofactor, cofactors are always associated with the enzyme. Okay, so here in case of coenzyme, the examples like FAD, NAD plus, and then ATP, etc. So in case of cofactors, largely the metal atoms, they dominate as cofactors, like magnesium. For magnesium acts as a cofactor for optimal functioning of hexokinase or glucokinase. And just now we have seen chemicals like lipoamide. Okay, lipoamide and cytochrome units. They are integrated parts of parts of enzymes. So that's the reason why we call them as cofactors. So friends, I hope you understood the concept of coenzyme and cofactor and various chemicals that are acting as coenzymes and cofactors. There is a very tight link between coenzymes and vitamins, because most of the coenzymes like NAD, FAD, etc. are all obtained from vitamins only. So in this way you can derive a link between nutrition and health or disease status of a human being, because when all the vitamins are supplied, all coenzymes are plentifully available within your system, so thereby all enzymes can optimally perform. So if they perform optimally, that is nothing but health. Okay friends, we are at the end of the lecture. I hope you understood the concept of coenzymes and cofactors and the relation between coenzymes and vitamins, and this is a very important topic, and I request you to please share this video with your friends, and if you have any doubts, please let me know through the comment section. I will try to clarify your doubts. I thank you all for your time and see you again with another very interesting lecture soon. Thank you.